Welcome to Coffee with the Candidates. Now, this is your opportunity to learn all about all the candidates and all the things and all the races and everything that's happening here in Klamath County. And one of the most important races that's going to be happening is Cliff Bentz is up for re-election. And he is facing 5 different opponents. Dawm Rasmussen, who's here today with me. We also have Peter Quince. We have Michelle Doyle. And Mary Doyle. Yep. And we have Patty Snow as well. So there's 5 different people that are going to be running up against Cliff Bentz. And this is going to be in some ways, this is going to be a comeuppance for Cliff Bentz, because there's a bit of a sway against the people that are the incumbents that are running right now. And the Republicans all across this country are worried about their seats being challenged. So we have a challenge for us to decide, which is on May 19th, we're going to be having a primary. And you guys are going to elect your Democratic running mate for the congressional seat. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Dawm Rasmussen. Dawn, how are you today?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This is very exciting stuff. I mean, we don't really have a lot of politics happening, and the fact that I got all of you candidates that came down last night, and you're all here in the town, this is an amazing opportunity to talk with you guys. So thank you for being here today.
It's great to be here.
So tell me, what is your biggest challenge for running for Congress? What do you think is going to be the biggest lift that you have to do?
I think it's just getting out there, and quite frankly, I've done a very good job of it already, because this is the 7th largest district in the United States. Yeah. It's over 70,000 square miles, and to date, well, I've already hit 8,000 miles. I think by the time this week is over, I'll be about closer to 9,000 miles, and that is simply the equation that Cliff Bentz is not getting, is that he is not getting himself out there. Yeah. And, for me, I see this as a commitment to the voters, that you see me here during the primary, you're going to see me during the general, and then you're going to see me after. And I am absolutely going to have the same kind of aggressive town hall schedule that Wyden and Merkley are both following, because that's what this job is all about. It's about representing the people, not hiding from the people.
And Cliff Bentz currently is not doing pressers. He's not doing any kind of town hall meetings.
Yeah, he's absolutely.
He's just said, I'm not going to talk to anybody, and you have to email him if you want to get any kind of answers.
And you might not even get that.
And you might not even get that. Exactly.
Right. So he's pretty much becoming the antithesis of what a representative is supposed to be. Yeah. You're supposed to be in district, and that's one of the reasons why the constitutional framers wrote this whole role in the U.S. House of Representatives. They wanted it to turn over every 2 years, which would push the representatives out into the district, so they're actually getting out and talking to people and staying in touch with what their needs and their wants are. So that way you take that back to Congress, and that's where you legislate and mandate,
Well, and based on what I heard last night, all of the candidates that are running for the Democrats, you all have a major beef with what's happening here in the United States. So let's talk about that right now, can we?
Well, I think, there's an equivalency where we talk about affordability. Everybody's feeling squeezed, but I think you can link that directly to the immorality, what's going on at the federal level with this current administration. When you have people starting wars to basically avoid the Epstein files, or benefiting financially because of one person tweeting or whatever about war, changes in the war, we won, we didn't win, we're sending more people in, but now we won. And you're watching the Gulf, the oil prices go up and down, and people are making huge stock trades off of that. That's a lot of immorality. And when we have people really, the administration really focusing on corporations, benefiting corporations. And there's a place for corporations, don't get me wrong, but when we have oligarchs controlling so much of what we have in this district, we have mega corporate farms, we have healthcare companies or mega healthcare companies. They don't care about us. They don't care about the working people. And I think those are the biggest challenges. The people are feeling it. Grocery prices, farmers are feeling with fertilizer prices increasing. We're seeing, I think it's hydrogen that's used in data chip manufacture. All these things are kind of coming out of this whole war in particular, and it's hurting us. Yeah. And it's not making America great anymore. It's absolutely hurting America. And so the pain is becoming worse and worse and worse. And there's a lot of people that were very pro-Trump and very pro-Bentz. they're feeling the pain.
Yeah.
And my job is not to say I told you so. My job is to say, you know what, I'm glad you see things for what they are. Welcome, no judgment. We just need to get together and get the work done.
Well, and let's talk about the nuts and bolts of that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Trump is buying Argentinian beef now, which
Right.
is killing the beef farmers
It
around here.
is.
There's tons of beef farmers
Yeah.
around here. The agriculture people are all complaining about the price of diesel. They're complaining about the price
Fertilizer.
of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many expenses, and it's gotten so expensive to be part of America now.
It is.
And the average mom and pop wants
They're
to
hanging
leave-
on.
They're hanging
They're
on,
just barely.
just trying to keep their nose above
I
water.
talked to a cherry grower in the Dalles area, and he's at the point, if he doesn't make enough money this year, this is a multi-generational farm, he's throwing in the towel.
Uh-huh.
He just cannot make it pencil out. And, we have a lot of commodity exports that have been really hurt by the tariffs that have been going on, and so people have lost market share. We've heard about the soybean farmers back east, and then we also have the wheat growers. Soft winter wheat goes back to east. It goes over to Asia. That's what they use for noodles.
Yeah.
And when you have tariffs on that, it's just hurting. It's putting America in last place, not first place. And that, to me, is part of this whole corruption piece of the current administration. You and me, the working people, we're feeling it and we're tired of it. And that's where we have to really start focusing on stopping the graft and the corruption, and then starting to go back to traditional morals and integrity and accountability and taking the money out of politics. And that's a huge thing. That's one of the biggest problems we have right now.
Well, then talk to me about this bloodletting that's supposed to happen in this midterm election that's coming up. And I mean, obviously we have 5 candidates running against Cliff Bentz, and everybody's hoping that they're going to get the nod from the voters to run against him. What does that look like from your perspective?
Well, some people may call it bloodletting. I think I see a lot of people saying that this is actually a relief because they're hurting so badly and getting pinched so badly. This is their opportunity to get some hope again. People are choosing, do I pay health care? Do I pay for my rent? Do I pay for gas? All the necessities. Groceries cost a lot. And, I just talked to someone this morning that they have an electric car, and they even tried to curtail their driving just because everything's going up, including electricity. So when we talk about what the midterms are looking at, one of the things that I am absolutely advocating for is that there's not a lot of good leadership coming out of the Democratic Party. And I'm willing to buck the trend. And one of the things that I had been complaining about, to be honest, was the lack of planning on the Democrats. Like, okay, so we do win the midterms. Now what are we going to do? We look at a lot of government departments and agencies. They've been scorched earth, or maybe there's sycophants in there, or they're so bad, there's no staffing. There's just people in there who don't even have the historical knowledge of how to run the agency. So those are the things that are to serve the American people when they're basically torched. We have to build that back.
Yeah.
And I have not heard a plan from the federal government for the federal government by the Democrat leadership. And I got tired of complaining about it. So I actually launched its New America movement. And basically it's through the Courage for Democracy. And it's about 144 candidates. They're online. You can find us. And we all have taken the pledge that we're not taking corporate PAC money. We're staying ethical. We're also going to impeach and convict when we get to office. But looking at the bigger picture, that we are a larger voting bloc, assuming that most of us will get elected. And what I said is, let's start building that blueprint of how to rebuild our country back together, because whatever was there, it's not there anymore. And, it's much better than what we have now, but it was also had its problems too. So the whole point is to look at all the government agencies and departments, see who's in there, see what the budget is, see what the mission is, and remove the corruption out of there and rebuild back, and maybe let's really look at all the different facets of it and clean it out, and basically come back to a very service-oriented government structure that's there to support the people, not to be used against the people.
Yeah. Well, how does that look with respect to technology and with AI and with?
Oh, boy.
I mean, we have all of these advancements, and the federal government is notoriously behind the 8 ball when it comes to. They're still pushing papers back in Washington D.C.
Not digital ones either.
Yeah, I mean, so what is this going to look like?
Well,
can we bring the federal government up to technological advancements?
Absolutely, but there's a real concern there that we have to make sure that if we are going to bring those technological improvements to our government, that they aren't going to be ever used or leveraged against the people. And right now we have individuals that are very closely aligned with this administration, big technology companies, Elon Musk and Palantir and some of the other ones, that they're almost getting embedded into the U.S. government, and they have access to our personal data. And that's terrifying to me. It can be a good thing, but right now we have a government that is, has no compunction. They're ready to use it against us. And so I think, there's a lot of pieces to what you just mentioned about AI data centers, and we have a runaway problem right now. And it is absolutely uncontrolled, unregulated, and are we going to get rid of AI? No, and there's some good pieces of AI, absolutely, but we need to start figuring out smartly how to actually plan for it. What we are having right now is an unprecedented gold rush and wild, wild west all at the same time between land and energy and water. The resources that make up, help with the data centers. And that concerns me greatly because AI is chewing up most of the resources, and you can't escape AI. I mean, I found out, if you go into Google, type into Google request, unless you type -AI in front of your Google query, it automatically gives you an AI thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So you're using AI, you may not be intending to.
Yeah.
And if you're on Zoom, I have this horrible Otter AI I cannot seem to get rid of. It's so entrenched in the program, I can't seem to get rid of it. So it is everywhere. It's chatbots, it's all these different things. And it's embedded in healthcare companies where they're actually using AI to reject claims. And so when you lose the touch of the humanity and it's out of control and the resource demand is so exorbitant, and even just recently Oregon Public Broadcasting talked about how Amazon outbid a local utility up in Northeast Oregon and bought some land for $85 million. So we've got mega corporations competing against local utilities, and local utilities serve us. Amazon serves itself. And so they can't buy it. Local utilities don't have $85 million to spend. So it's another land grab. And so I think that we do need to support the jobs that come along with building these facilities. I think that's really good, for both the tradespeople and then also the jobs that come to those communities. But we have to maintain it. And I'm really worried about sustainability of our resources and how much electricity is costing us all, and that drain on our whole infrastructure is huge. And we're going to be short 9 gigawatts of power this summer in Oregon alone. And when we have these big corporations basically tapping in or augmenting our land and our resources to fulfill their resource needs for the data centers, that's leaving us literally in the dark.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So talk to me about local issues. Stuff like the Wood River estuary that was supposed to be the panacea to fix the problems in Upper Klamath Lake. That got yanked out from underneath of us, and that's still phase 2 and phase 3 is not done yet.
Yeah.
We have the Klamath tribe, which has lost all kinds of monies because they were, for a lack of a better way of putting it, they were getting a lot of federal funding.
Yes, they were.
And all of their funding is frozen, and they're not. They're struggling now too.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many parts of this economy around here that have been affected poorly, that are dependent upon the federal government, and they've lost it. Not to mention the fact that we have the Medicaid, Medicare issues with the state, with all these children that are not covered anymore, and we have all these adults that are relying on Medicaid that they don't have the
SNAP benefits.
Yeah, I mean, it's how do we fix that?
Well, that goes back to the corruption I was talking about.
Yeah.
When we look at how much money is pouring into the pocketbooks of the very ultra wealthy and the mega corporations, and they're not paying their fair share of taxes, that's hurting all of us. We've seen this massive shift of wealth to the ultra wealthy, and the rest of us, we're paying more and we're getting paid less. And so when we have a government that's changed its priorities from serving the people, serving the land, and serving our country in a lot of different levels, and they're more focused on taking that money and putting it into paramilitary, the ICE, that's a whole nother bailiwick, but suddenly they want to put all this money into ICE and other things, the war, my goodness. What could we do with $3 billion a day or a week? So we have some challenges that it's not so much about lack of money, it's really a lack of political will. And that's something that I'm prepared to combat because it's about the people and we're getting left behind. And I have to say that I see this all the time. And I've been talking to a lot of folks here in Klamath Falls that, rural areas are being left behind even more than urban areas.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure that we're taking care of the rural folks because they're the ones who put food on the table. They're the ones creating the commodities that, keeps our Oregon economy vibrant. And so when we have unfair tax advantages, increasing affordability, and yanked projects that's just making everybody, poor, basically, it's a devastating consequences. And Cliff Bentz has been along for the whole ride. I mean, he helped author the really devastating part of H.R. 1, which I call the big, bad, Barfalicious bill. He helped write that part about Medicaid. So he's directly hurting the 40% of people in this district that are on Medicaid. So I don't get it. It's just so unconscionable. It's unethical. You're supposed to be serving the people, not hurting them. And when we have all these projects that are getting rolled back or cut or stopped or revoked or whatever, or they got funded by name and then the money was never sent in, that's a contract that the government has with the people. And when you have a breaking of that contract, people lose faith in the government, and I get it. And I'm so upset myself that I see that as one of my key things is that we have to bring the power back to the people and serve everybody in Oregon. I see most of Oregon's rural areas as very independent thinkers. They're used to doing things on their own. They're not looking for handouts, but when they need help, and we shouldn't be punishing them by not providing that service and that support.
Well, it just seems there's just a heavy lift.
It is.
This is a heavy lift to ask anybody to do. And I mean, with the prospects that Cliff Bentz could be reelected, I mean that's kind of scary, isn't it? Because
it is scary, but I think more importantly, it's going to cause even more pain. And I hope people can listen to this, what we're talking about today, and do reading up and realize that it's going to take someone to step into this role for the state who is someone who can build partnerships. And, if we establish councils where we can put all the smart people in the room, there's plenty of forced partnerships and collaboratives and things like that where they're putting, ranchers and farmers and timber owners and scientists and ecological concerns. And they're hammering out the ways to work together. It's not this polarization model. It's all about, okay, well, if everybody gets a slice of the win, then we all win versus one person gets 100% of whatever they want. So it's going to take someone who has a reasonable approach, that has a pragmatic approach. And I'm one of those people where if you can sit down and give me a really good argument and give me real facts and be civil about it, I'm all ears. In fact, I've had my mind changed a couple times already, and meaning that I can set aside my own ideas and just listen. And that's what this is all about, is listening. And it's like, well, I learned something and it did change my opinion on it, and I'm ready to be prepared to act on it. And so that's what you need. You need someone who's going to listen. And one of the things I keep saying is that Harry S. Truman had the little plaque on his desk that says the buck stops here. Mine's going to say the people stop here. So that would guide everything I'm doing. Is this going to help the greatest number of people? It's not about money. It's not about personal gain. It's not about ego. It's about serving the people. And that's what service really means. And that's what I see this job doing.
Well, then we have the other aspects of Upper Klamath Lake, and Klamath Lake is the biggest part of this area here. So sorry to be.
I talked to a lot of people this morning already.
Well, but I mean the spring rung salmon, the spring Chinook, they were not put on the endangered species list, and they were lumped in with the fall. The fall's fine. We have tons of salmon that come up in the fall. The spring-fed salmon are not coming up here, and that is a huge aspect of the restoration of the lake. It's the restoration of if we're going to have a legitimate salmon harvest, if we're going to have a legitimate industry developed from this salmon, we have to have the spring salmon. And the federal government just decided, nah, you're not going to pay. We're not going to do that for you. So, I mean, how can we change that?
Well, in understanding the fact that there's upstream agricultural users, I would assume that's part of the stream. In order to have the salmon migrating, they have to have streams to go up, and if the water's being diverted to fields, that's a challenge. And so part of it is there an alternating pattern? I mean, this is where you have to get the people that are the specifically subject matter experts, but there has to be a way to kind of thread the needle, basically. The farmers, they've invested a lot of money and time and effort, and probably for generations, into their livelihoods. And so they have a right to be able to, run their land. But at the same time, if we're trying to really have a balanced perspective of all the different species, we're going to have to try to figure out what's the best way that works for everyone. But it has to take a willingness, and I think that's key. And one of the challenges too is that when we have a single species focus, sometimes we're not looking at the holistic ecosystem. So, the question is, are we looking at the holistic ecosystem? I don't want to lose any species over another one, but how can we try to find a balance that benefits all species? I went on a Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife tour, actually ended up kind of falling into it. It was in the Rogue River Valley, and it was the board of directors, and we toured 6 different sites in the Rogue Valley, and we were talking about fire and resilience and fish and whatnot, and they were talking about how it's important to get trees over the streams because that shades them and keeps the water temperature down, and that helps the fish, because otherwise after a certain temperature the smolt can't.
Yeah.
And so interesting about that, and they also put water chillers in the water. Have you heard about that?
I have.
Yeah. And I was like, that's a great thought. You can make them solar power, pop in the water, and it keeps the water, it cools the water, and that will help, ensure a higher survival rate of the fish. So what can we do? How can we do it? And it's hard. I mean, that's why everybody's been struggling for so long. But I think if we can try to figure out, like, having a council that, it's all people who are leveraging their experience and their knowledge and finding that solution that kind of threads the needle. Not to say people haven't been trying to do that, but it is a tough question, and we're facing that in different ways all across this district. So you just got to keep trying to find it. I can't give you any specific answer right now, but we have to balance what the people need and what the natural resource environments need. And
I think a lot of that too is the conversations have to happen.
Yeah,
right. The state has to talk to the locals. The locals
There's a lot
have
of
to
disconnect.
Talk to the feds. Everybody has to talk to each other, and those conversations are not happening right now.
Right.
So that is a huge problem because the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing when it's going through this.
And that's often the case.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So part of that is being that person who can step in the void and help fill those communication gaps and start getting the communications going back and forth between both. That's going to be really important. And, it might not be me, but once I get in Congress, it might be one of my staffers who has expertise in that area that is really good at facilitation so that those conversations can start and continue.
Okay. Well, then, the last aspect of this that we have to talk about is the fires.
Oh, yes.
We had a horrible winter. Yeah. We did not get nearly enough snow to protect ourselves.
Right.
And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is now defunct,
Yes.
and they're moving them out of here.
Yeah, and the U.S. Forest Service.
And the U.S. Forest Service.
And they cut the research facilities.
How do we fix that?
We're in a really bad setup, not just weather-wise, but resource-wise. Mm-hmm. And so, part of the, having councils that work together and try to find solutions, that also includes forest management. I'm a big believer in protecting our natural resources, but at the same time, if there's a way that we can do sustainable thinning and that can help out with some of the mega fires we've been having, extreme weather events are happening, and we have to be cognizant of the fact that things are changing. Mm-hmm. And we have to be more resilient with our communities. If we can it's like a multi-pronged approach. You, number one, have to have forest practices, number one. Number two, we also need to have, and I mean responsible and sustainable forest practices, but then we also need to do education. A lot of people, I live right near the Rowena fire, and even a couple years before that even happened, my husband and I were driving past and we're like, that house is going to burn, that house is going to burn, because they had stuff right up against the house, no defensible space. No. And we have a lot of people moving into that wildland interface. And so being cognizant of, okay, what can I do as an individual property owner to mitigate my own risk? And there's the whole fire-wise 10 feet, 30 feet, 100 feet. If you can do that, that's a huge gain for firefighters, because that gives them some space to fight it out. But so there's the forest management practices that are sustainable and prudent, and then also the prevention, the knowledge, and then educating people on prevention, and then there's actually getting out there and fighting it. And with the whole changeover of the U.S. Forest Service moving to Salt Lake City, we are losing, I think, 35 offices, including the wildfire research centers. Oh boy, and I know right now they have not even funded the firefighting yet. Mm-hmm. That's scary to me, because we've already had, I think, 34 different fires. I mean, that was a couple weeks ago. I haven't been able to keep up on the numbers, but like 125 or 135 acres have already burned already in Oregon. And that was in March, so that was a couple weeks ago. So we're going to be in for a doozy. I am really terrified about this summer. I am concerned that it could be a potentially catastrophic events on multiple fronts across the state. And what do? Well, we need a government that kicks into gear and realizes that there's a lot of communities at risk, a lot of people at risk, a lot of their livelihoods at risk, and of course the ecosystems are at risk.
Well, that means getting FEMA involved. That means getting the Red Cross involved. I mean,
interagency coordination.
All these homes that across the state that are in peril are going to. We're going to lose a lot of houses this summer,
we are.
And this is going to be a really tough summer for that.
And then the insurance rates go up when you have massive losses, and then that gets transferred on to, I live in the urban wildland interface. Basically, I live outside the Dalles, but I'm close enough to town. But I have 5 acres, and I have done the clearing around our property. I've made sure we limbed all of our trees. We have everything well watered around the house, and I took it to the next level. I put a rooftop sprinkler on. And then last year we just added, and fortunately we were in a position to be able to do this, but we just added 2 2,500 gallon water tanks. And we have solar because I'm on a well, and if the power goes out, you don't have water. And so we have solar, so it will power. We have a pump, electrical pump, and so if the power's there, we got it. If not, then we've got the battery and the solar to run it. And we have fire hoses, so we actually have our own fire suppression system. And I'm the extreme version of that, just because I've been serving on a wildland fire information page. I started to tell you about that, and I've been doing that. Well, it's been since 2017, but I had to step back because I've got something else going on right now.
Well, you're a little busy. Busy. We'll give you a pass on that.
Yeah, but it's stunning how people, it's amazing, and this is a real credit to throw out to all the farmers out there that usually they're the first line defense when it comes to fires. They're out there disking the fields or running tractors. If they've got water vehicles, they're doing water. And so not only they are farmers, but they're helping their community by helping save their neighbors and other land. But there's nothing worse to be listening to the whole scanner thing and hearing people screaming for resources and being told there aren't anymore. I mean, it's like when we have multiple fires going on, tankers can't get very far. I mean, there's 5 fires around the state. They're spread thin, and the same thing goes with personnel. So what do? And sometimes it just goes, and you can't stop it. So that's terrifying.
Well, the way this summer's shaking out to look like, it's like we're going to have a lot of power outages because every time the wind blows, they're going to have to shut the power down. These homes up in Sprague River and around the county around here are going to have a lot of trouble out there without power. And then
how do you run your operation?
Exactly.
I know.
How do you do that?
So economically, there's a cost there too.
Yeah.
So when you have people like Cliff Bentz, who's been walking lockstep with this administration and not advocating for his district, especially the risk that we're facing this year, that's problematic. That's not, again, going back to how can you ignore your constituents this way? That's a moral issue. We have communities and people and livelihoods and ecosystems under threat here, and you have to step up. You can't just hide.
Well, he's been hiding. So.
Yes, he has.
I wish you lots of luck.
Thank you.
And I wish you lots of energy and everything else to do this, because this is going to be a heavy lift. But I think you're well handled. You're well fitted to do the job. And I want to thank you for running.
Thank you. I see it as an honor. It's again, it's a service. It's not a benefit. This actually was my feeling. I decided to run because a high school teacher, I was on the school board in the Dalles, and I got to know one of the high school teachers, and he kept saying, run. run. And I was thinking about it, and then I just got tired of doom scrolling, and I just thought, well, what if I do run? The thing is, the people that should be running usually don't think of running themselves just because, and we need more people like that. And I talked to somebody else that I know. He was a consultant with John McCain's presidential campaign. He's now a Democrat. And I called him up because I've known him for, 15 years now. And I said, Roger, what do you think? Should I run? He's like, absolutely, you should do it. And so within 15 minutes, I told the teacher, he already had my logo popped out. He was ready. He's like, yay. And so, it's for me, it's a lot of miles, but I keep saying it's a lot more smiles because honestly, we got to keep reminding ourselves that most people are just people, and we're not, we can't keep demonizing each other. We're all working hard. We're all trying to do our very best and make a good living for ourselves and our families and try to make a better world. And so if we keep that in mind, that's kind of my approach. It's like, okay, tell me your story. What's going on in your life so I better understand your perspective. And then that's how you get that aggregate of how you can take that back to DC and formulate policy and legislation.
I have a theory that 80% of the voters of this state are just trying to pay their mortgage, send their kids to school, and keep a job. And they're not concerned with the federal government in any way, shape, or form because they're living in the middle of God's country, so they don't have to worry
They're
about
very
that.
independent people.
And that's one of the neat parts about Oregon is because it's so independent and it is so remote compared to Washington, D.C., we are a very resourceful type of people in this state. But at the same time, we need help from the federal government when we ask for it.
We need a representative who'll bring home some of that community project funding, which is not, Cliff Benz has brought $0 into this district, which is disastrous when you think about other districts are getting $24,000 a year, $24 million a year.
Yeah. Well, then that's where we're going to leave it.
Okay,
Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for stopping in to the Waffle Hut. Thanks to the Waffle Hut for being here today. And, if this is what we're going to do, I have another couple of interviews that I'm going to be doing with a bunch of different people. And hopefully I'll get all 5 of the candidates that are going to be running for the Democrats for the Cliff Benz seat for District 2. And we'll keep telling these stories and we'll keep talking to these people because this is how we understand how we're going to fix this place and how we're going to make it all work together. I'm Christopher German for Coffee with the Candidates. You have been so gracious to watch this. Thank you so much for watching this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we will be back again with another interview, maybe in about 10 minutes, because that's when Peter Quince is going to be here. But we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, and have a great day. I'm Christopher German for the Sunshine News. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. I appreciate it. Yeah. Good questions.
Were they good?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, they all fit. They are very germane.
Boom.